Meeting. Welcome everybody who is in the audience tonight and who's going to be making presentations. We will have the roll call.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Whatever, yeah.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Sorry, I couldn't hear very well.
That's all right, just doesn't matter.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Here. All right, will you please join me in flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, indivisible, with liberty and justice. I don't know about you, but every time I say that, I'm remembering back to elementary school when somebody mispronounced it and did a Mondragon and said, you know, for Richard stands, and I have to get that out of my head. How many of you remember that? I remember that. We are going to do, jigger the agenda a little bit and move item 9A up next. And so I hope that you will beg our forgiveness here. We have a very important project that we need to talk about, and we want our consultant to be able to participate with us. And he's got a flight, so Lamont, come on up, and then Mr. Conkle will do the introduction. Or is it Mr. Foyles? Sorry. Everybody got the clicker?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Happy to be with you this evening. Thank you so much for that quick adjustment on the fly. With me this evening is Lamont Brown with MGT Consulting. Lamont's led the team that has helped us through the initiatives over the last 16 months or so. He's got a short presentation to kind of walk us through our set of projects, and we're here to present a resolution and a DEI statement and framework for your consideration. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Good to see everyone again. Thanks for having me, and thank you for adjusting the schedule to accommodate my flight schedule. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of our project as well as our recommendations and ultimately the framework, the DEI framework that a city staff with community input has developed. As you can see on the screen, the goal was to support racial equity, develop a framework to enhance the organization and the work it does both for its staff and for the Oregon City community. We worked since last March through roughly February of this year. We finished a lot of work in December, but had a lot of interaction with city staff January and February to finalize the framework, which you will see today. Quick overview. We started with a policy analysis where we collected policies from the city. One of those policies, harassment and retaliation, was rated as ideal. 4 sets of policies met status quo, and 1 was rated as under development, but that was also something that's in process with the organization to improve, and we're happy to support the organization's efforts in that work. We also engaged staff. We developed a survey. Staff had an opportunity to provide us feedback on the questions that we asked. Roughly 45% of the staff participate in the survey with a 90% confidence level. We also did focus groups, both with staff leadership and staff members, with, let me go back, 4 major overarching themes. One is the desire staff has mentioned to understand better diversity, equity, and inclusion, and participate in trainings, increase overall diversity of the staff, improving onboarding for staff members in new roles, and incorporating DEI into their work, as well as enhancing staff engagement. While we were happy to have a 90% confidence level, I think there was some desire to have greater engagement than the 45% that we saw in this particular staff survey. Community engagement is something that the city said was really important to them, and I really appreciated that focus. And so we reached out to the community. We had community members volunteer to serve on a task force as well as be nominated by city staff. I met with them personally, mostly in person, over about a 6-month period. 20 different residents of the community were identified. including students, parents, retirees, and current members of the workforce, as well as a student. The task force was able to select the frequency of their meetings, the modality of their meetings, as well as training topics. And so we really focus on empowering the community voice, listening to the community, hearing from the community, and responding to the community appropriately. We also conducted a survey where we got 60 representatives and had several different listening sessions as well. One of the questions that we asked the community is, what's one word that describes the culture of Oregon City? And you can see a wide variety of adjectives here that community members use to describe the culture of their lived experience as residents. The second last word and the last two words I'll call out, working on it and blossoming, I think shows a continued focus and desire and appreciation for what the city is doing, with recognition that there is certainly work to be done, which is not unique to Oregon City by any means. Our entire assessment concluded with these recommendations. The first set that you see here are from feedback from the staff as well as MGT's analysis. The first is to continue to enhance the organization through clarification of roles, providing space for all people in the organization to speak freely, particularly managers who obviously have a lot of responsibility for the team that they lead, who want more training, want more support, and want to be responsive to the current staff that they're overseeing and the future changing needs of the community. The second major recommendation is to reinforce the importance of cultural competency. There are some folks who understand this, some who don't. Overall, there's a tremendous desire to have a stronger understanding organization-wide. And the third one is to demonstrate commitment to understanding DEI at all levels. Staff themselves said they wanted more training, wanted to be more responsive to community needs, as well as their peers and colleagues. Again, community engagement was a huge focus of this assessment. That is not the case for many organizations. That certainly was the case for Oregon City, which we really appreciated. The community said that they wanted the city to demonstrate commitment to understanding DEI at all levels within the community, as well as conducting a community-based assessment. Our assessment was internal, so most of our engagement was with staff and internal-facing policies. The community said they really valued that and appreciated that and thought it'd be just as helpful to focus externally as well. So with that said, we shared the findings with community members as well as city staff, got input from both parties, and collaboratively developed this framework. I want to be very clear that while MGT finalized this document, this is the city's document. This is the city's input of staff and community members. There are four major priorities on this framework, and let me actually describe what a framework is. A framework is a guideline, a guidepost, and an outline of ideal priorities and initiatives. It doesn't mean that every single item will be implemented. Obviously, consideration of resources and other budgetary and other priorities and organization and needs have to be considered. But this is the staff and community's best attempt at developing a framework that the city hopes to use to enhance its culture and lived experience, both for community members and for its employees. The first priority is to foster and sustain a feeling of belonging and inclusion for all city staff members, and you can see a set of initiatives aligned with that particular priority. The second priority is to strengthen the approach to talent recruitment, selection, development, and retention, having a diverse staff and workforce that is attractive to current and future Oregon City residents. Also a focus with four different initiatives related to that priority. The third one is demonstrating individual and organization-wide commitment to DEI through communication, training, and accountability. Training is pretty obvious, but one of our hopes is that the city will identify some training topics. We've already been in discussion about how we can support that need and identify who is the ideal audience. Some training sessions are for all staff, some are for leaders or people managers, but ultimately that all staff members are operating with a shared and at least baseline level understanding of what it means to have an inclusive culture of belonging for all staff members. And the fourth one is weaving a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion to the fabric of all external-facing work. While the first three were focused internally as appropriate for the nature of this assessment, there's a strong desire to make sure that external-facing policies and practices that impact the Oregon City community are equally sensitive.
And I saw the lightning, I saw it flashing on there.
Yeah, they said that was going to happen tonight on the news, so.
You heard me say I have a flight tonight, right? And so this particular priority is related to mirroring the same kind of work with an external assessment with greater community engagement. So I know that was quick. You've seen some of it before, so I don't want to spend too much time on things you've seen before, but that is the framework at a high level. Happy to turn back over to Patrick to answer any questions.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Lamont, for the overview. Commission has comments or questions about the resolution or the framework. We're here to have that discussion. We hope that the commission feels confident in the work that's been happening and feel that we're in the right direction or that we're heading in the right direction. Lamont's team has been really helpful kind of laying out a roadmap for us. And I've really appreciated the conversations around how this is a journey just for our city and, you know, every step of the way this place areas to improve and excited to keep this moving.
There's just so much information in that brief, high-speed presentation. And, you know, I look at it and are they supposedly shortcomings within our organization that we're trying to correct? They are. And
So, and again, this is a high-level version. The last time I was here, there was a presentation, and so where today I showed the number of policies that were rated in the category. The last presentation went through each of those policies, why they were rated that way, and the report that you have outlines that as well. There are some strengths that we've identified that we think the city is doing very, very well in terms of policies and practices that we recommend further diving into and accelerating, and some areas of some opportunities as well for improvement. So we try to be really objective and balanced in our assessment, identifying strengths as well as gaps with clear recommendations on how to accelerate the strengths, but also build, or I should say narrow the gap so that the organization really meets its goals.
the reason I ask is it's a budgetary item and it's to the tune of $150,000. It's like, I try to understand your business model. You have this consulting firm, I would call it. And how long have you been in existence as a firm?
Firm itself for 49 years. I've been there for 3 years. The firm for 49 years.
And when did you add the DEI package to your list of offerings?
We've been doing DI-related work for actually several decades, initially with disparity studies and EI work for the last 15 years.
Because the term sort of came into public awareness more recently than that.
That's correct.
You know, I think I'm going to look at it when the budget comes. I want to know what the additional value is beyond what we've already done. And hopefully I can discern that. It's a significant amount. I don't know what we've spent so far. Do you remember what the original contract was?
Just over 150,000 from the last
150,
two-year
the original.
cycle, about the same.
For me, I always want to see the benefit. I want to know is, are we solving a situation that does exist? Or are we trying to solve a situation that doesn't exist? And if there is a situation, what's the depth of it? And how do we achieve that solution? Do we achieve it through this avenue? Or is there better avenues to do it? Is it a matter of sending our supervisory personnel to seminars for training? And I don't know that answer. You know, when I look at our hiring practices, I think our hiring practices are good. I look at our diversity within our hiring practices. I look at the things that we're talking about, and it's just something I need to look at deeper, because it's going to be a big expenditure following a big expenditure we've already made. And it's an ongoing, and I think you'll agree, it's an ongoing process. but how do I put things in place at the most economical cost? And what is it I'm trying to solve? And I need to go back over your original report and this high-speed report, because I'm just not sure yet. So I look forward to that discussion during the budgetary process. Thanks.
Anybody else? Excuse me, anybody else? Okay, well, I, for one, as you know, this is something that we made a priority as part of our goals. It's still in our goals. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a one-year one and done. This is an ongoing process. I totally concurred with the staff definition when we started to talk about this over 2 years ago, that our community is ready for this. Our community is at a point to where we need to address some things that have gone on in this community. I think this is a process to help us get there. We have very good things that we can talk about in terms of our diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community. But we have a little ways to go. This, again, was focused internally and then one external, but we have our community that we need to be talking to. We need to talk to them about what it is they think we ought to be doing, and there isn't a really good way of doing that without actually asking them. So it's not where we're checking a box. I mean, I think we all felt committed when we agreed to do this, that we knew it was going to be ongoing, and yes, it does have budget implications, which is the reason why I asked Patrick to hand out this framework to the budget committee, because we need to start looking at our programs and our processes within what we're trying to achieve. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm saying that we are at a certain level and we can go up to here. We can be better and better and better. And it's not just about diversity in race. It's about diversity in lots of things. It's about equity across the board. It's about inclusion. Having people in this community feel like they are being heard and they are being listened to. And we have barely begun to scratch the surface with this. I think of one thing that we have heard from, and I'll ask Commissioner Morrow to nod because he's about ready to lose his voice, is that we heard some of the same things from our Youth Advisory Commission. And it's not as diverse as I'd like, but it's great. It's diverse. And we owe it to our community, and we owe it to them as the next group that's coming behind us to really kind of take a look at this. And we can do it in little bite-sized chunks. I'm not talking about us spending $1 million every year. We're doing it slowly and methodically according to how quickly we think our community can adapt to this. And I think, again, I get asked a lot of questions about this. People in our community that are aware of it are really pleased that we're moving this forward. Oregon City's changing. And for those of us that have lived here a very long time, some of you, your whole lives, Oregon City is not the Oregon City it was in, 1844 or 1950 or 1996. And I am very proud to say that this is my hometown now. I do get some odd looks occasionally, but I'm used to that. So I would strongly recommend that we support this resolution 2310, and we look at how we can work together as a city staff to move some of these initiatives forward to make us the best that we can possibly be, because I think we're good. But I'm not satisfied to sit on our laurels. I'm satisfied to let us keep moving forward. And you're not saying anything against it. I'm just saying this, that's kind of how I feel very passionate about this, as I do many things, including our public works street design standards. I mean, that's one of my things. So do we have a motion?
And I'm not saying anything against it either.
No.
I keep asking myself, what's our role? What's our role in relation to the rest of the community?
The commission, or are you talking about the city
The
itself?
commission. And then, well, the commission will dictate the city role.
Well, we're the leaders.
Well, what's our role in relation to the internal workings? What's our role in relation to other institutions like the school system, which I think probably could benefit from this?
Yeah, I would say so.
What's our role to the community in general? And then how do we measure results?
Set the example.
Measuring results, how do you know if the process is effective if you can't measure the result?
Well, we will work on some metrics.
And then in the end, you know, and probably in the size of the budget we have, to the average Joe, you know, 150,000 or 300 sounds like a lot of money, but in this terms of a city budget, it doesn't look like a lot of money, but, you know, it's always, in a budget process, it's always competing needs for
Absolutely.
limited funds.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when I look at these survey from the city, you see those items that our citizens are not satisfied with. And I think that's what we need to address. So I'm open to the discussion. I'm not a total buy-in at this moment.
Well, I would say that we are setting the example by the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we have on this commission right now today.
Agreed.
And I think that we have told our community by our actions and by us being here, this is where we're going.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with things that both of you are saying. I'm going to vote to approve this framework tonight because I think a lot of good work has gone into it. But in terms of what the city is going to be spending moving forward, that's something that I'm going to be looking at with a large magnifying glass, because I do want to make sure our community knows that we're spending their money wisely. And just as you mentioned the diversity of this commission, it was free. I'll note that. So
Was it really?
it was not part of the budget to get the diversity here on this commission. So, but I am looking forward to having that conversation, maybe even tomorrow at our next budget meeting, about what that will look like moving forward, because I do also have some concerns about the sustainability of that. But at least for tonight, this is a good recognition of the tremendous amount of work that has been put into this.
I think when we introduced this initially, I said, this is not going to be a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. It's going to go beyond our terms. And I hope that the city makes a commitment to continue to have these conversations, because there are still conversations in this community that do need to be had. We haven't had them. They're not going to be easy, but all right, so let's have a motion for resolution 2310.
Can I make one?
Yes, please.
I'm also supportive of this, and I want to compliment Mr. Brown. I joined the committee at most of the way into the process, I think, but I was very impressed with the work that he did, and thank you. As to the budget part of it, to me, our initiatives will succeed if we can integrate this into how we do business naturally.
That's exactly.
And that's what I'm hoping we can do with our budget. But if it's a program where it requires a consultant and it remains consultant-driven and we don't learn to live it every day, we're not going to be successful. So when we have that budget discussion, that's what I'm going to be looking for, is what do we do to integrate this as a natural part of everything we do?
Well, that's part of what the resolution is talking about, how we integrate this into it. But again, it's baby steps. None of us are experts in this. None of our staff is expert in this. So we may have to rely on some outside assistance, because it's good to have somebody objective look at it, because we're too close to it. You know, I think we all know what we'd like to see, but it's not going to happen like that. So.
But I think Commissioner Mitchell's his position, I agree with, is not a never-ending exercise in consultation. It's an operational thing that you integrate in your system, as you say, and at some point, the consultation stops and the implementation begins, and it becomes part of the very framework within which you do business.
So if you were implying that I was saying it's an ongoing consultation, no, I'm talking about an ongoing process by which we integrate this into everything that we do. So when John Lewis and Josh Wheeler and Dana Webb are looking at the transportation system plan, they're looking at it from a DEI lens, that we integrate that. There's things that, you know, that may be related to that. You know, how do we do things that we do? How's our citizen involvement program? And I think the comp plan set us up for success in taking that model, applying this to it, because I think it already did. It already integrated it without this being there yet, because we talked about a broad base of support. And I'm really proud of that comp plan and the way we did it and the amount of participation we had.
I move to to approve Resolution 23-10 DEI Commitment and Framework.
Second.
I know that we're running a little short on time, but I would like to just read this. It's very short. So a resolution approving Oregon City's diversity, equity, and inclusion commitment statement and framework. Whereas the City Commission approved Resolution 20-19 declaring Oregon City's stance against racism, discrimination, and social injustices in our country and community, stating we are committed to creating an inclusive, welcoming, and equitable environment for every member of our community. And whereas the City Commission established the 2021 goal to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion for a safe, inclusive community and organization, and whereas the City Commission recognizes that DEI work is a journey of consistent learning, awareness, and improvement, and whereas over the course of the last year, the Oregon City Community DEI Task Force met to learn and consider diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in Oregon City and work to develop a set of initiatives and strategies for the city to consider. And whereas MGT Consulting performed an in-depth assessment of the city policies and practices and provided a detailed report identifying areas of improvement and an outline for future improvement initiatives, and that's where that ongoing work comes in. Whereas in collaboration with staff, MGT developed a framework that will guide the city efforts in advancing DEI initiatives. Now, therefore, Oregon City resolves that Section 1, in Oregon City, we strive to be a place where all persons, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, identity, age, religion, or ability to feel safe, respected, and valued. We will work to ensure that all staff feel a sense of belonging and all city services and programs are equally available and accessible to everyone. We are committed to sustained improvement by the work necessary to achieve this goal. Section 2, City of Oregon City DEI Framework, Exhibit A, identifying principles and strategies for the City of Oregon City is approved by the Commission. This resolution, Section 3, shall take effect immediately upon adoption by the Commission. Approved and adopted at a regular meeting, which we'll vote on in just a minute. So, on the vote.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, staff, and thank you, Lamont. And we'll look forward to working with our staff on the next stage of this. You know, you're right. It did kind of sound like he said your name when he called him, because I just listened. I said, yeah, it didn't say. Anyway, it did sound like you were calling him, but maybe he gets two votes. I don't know. All right, so we're going to go back to the regular agenda. So I would like to call up one of our most esteemed staff members to come up for ceremony and proclamation on item 3A. So do you have this in front of you? Do you have this in front of you? Do you have an extra copy, Mr. Wiley? I would like Mr. Williams to read a portion of this, if he would be so kind.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Galactic Senate. My name is Wing Commander Greg. I am the leader of the X-Wing Squadron that patrols Sector 606, which is right around the Jedi Library in the southern portion of our sector. I'm here tonight to let you know that our detecting array has picked up some transmissions. We think there may be some increased Imperial activity in the area, but I wanted to assure you that we have put out the call to our community. All the embracers of the light side of the Force, our Jedi Padawan learners, will be at the Jedi Library tomorrow to defend it against the Imperials and the forces of darkness. We would like to invite everybody to come down to the Jedi Library tomorrow from 5 to 7 o'clock to celebrate May the 4th, our Star Wars Day celebration. We are very pleased. We have some wonderful prizes for people who will attend. We have a authentic lightsaber that has been donated by Saber Forge, who's a local crafter of lightsabers and kyber crystals in our sector. We also have a brand new X-Wing Starfighter put together at the Starfleet factory of Lego. So we are very pleased to be able to give that away, and we'll have lots of other activities. Our youngest Jedi can come learn to use their lightsabers with pool noodles and bubbles. We'll have stories, we'll have face tattoos at Tatooine. We'll have some arts and crafts opportunity and a good time for all. So please come down to the Jedi Library in Sector 606, help us defend against the dark side. We do have some intelligence that Lord Vader will be in attendance along with some stormtroopers, but we have also contacted a local clan of Mandalorians who I think will be there to help us defend against them. So it should be a very interesting evening, so come on down.
You would read everything down to the now therefore, that would be lovely.
Certainly. Whereas a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the heroic Rebel Alliance won a great victory against the evil Galactic Empire. And whereas the noble Jedi Knights, once hunted to near extinction by the Sith, were able to restore balance to the Force and bring peace to the galaxy. And whereas we celebrate the recent defeat of the evil Moff Gideon, the reunification of the Mandalorian clans, and the elevation of Din Grogu from foundling to apprentice. And whereas the Jedi Library in Sector 606 is preparing a galactic celebration and welcomes visitors from any star system to attend. And whereas we, the residents of the OC system, are luminous beings surrounded and bound together by the Force and shall never start down the dark path lest it forever dominate our destiny.
And you will need to scroll it up a little bit more on my screen. So now therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the OC system, raise my lightsaber, which is still at home, do hereby proclaim May 4th, 2023 as Star Wars Day and encourage all residents of the OC system to make the hyperspace jump to the Jedi Library on May 4th to celebrate this momentous occasion. This is the way. May the 4th be with you. In witness thereof, I have used the Force to set my hand this 3rd day of May, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Galactic Commission. Much appreciated. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you for your attendance. All right, next 3B, we have another proclamation, and I was going to have Commissioner Morrow help me read this, but he is losing his voice, so I will read it in his stead. Proclamation, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage in the United States was celebrated beginning in 1978 and was made a month-long event in 1992, and whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is a month to celebrate and pay tribute to the vast diversity of languages, religions, and cultural traditions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that strengthen the fabric of American society, and whereas the month of May was selected as it honors the immigration of the first Japanese residents to the United States in 1843, additionally, May also marks the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, constructed by the labor of mostly Chinese immigrants. And whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have lived and worked in Oregon for more than 200 years, contributing to the state's rich history, economy, and culture, and whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander history in Oregon is marked by a struggle for freedom, equity, and justice, and prevailing over the adversity of exclusion, persecution, incarceration, and disparities. Asian American and Pacific Islanders have helped advance Oregon's prosperity and have a long-standing history of making esteemed, significant cultural and economic and community contributions. And whereas the vibrant history and diverse cultures of Oregon's Asian American and Pacific Islanders are here to be honored and respected as part of the central part of our state, county, and city's story and shared with all Oregonians. Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and encourage everyone to commemorate this important occasion in recognition of the numerous contributions made by Asian Americans and Pacific Islander communities locally, nationally, and globally. And I will sign this on the 3rd of May, 2023. Next, we have 3C, and I would ask Commissioner Smith to help with this one.
All right. A National Historic Preservation Month. Whereas on June 8th, 1906,
And I'm wearing my favorite shirt.
President Theodore Roosevelt signed into law the Antiquities Act, giving U.S. President the authority to create national monuments on public lands to protect significant natural, cultural, and scientific features. And whereas on October 15th, 1966, the National Historic Preservation Act, the most far-reaching preservation legislation ever enacted in the United States, was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson. The legislation established the National Register of Historic Places and the State Historic Preservation Offices. And whereas the National Register of Historic Preservation established May as National Historic Preservation Month in 1973 to promote historic places for the purpose of instilling national and community pride, promoting heritage and tourism, and showing the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. And whereas People Saving Places is the theme for National Historic Preservation Month for 2023 and is supported by the Oregon City Historic Review Board, the Oregon City Public Library, and the historic and cultural sites in our city. And whereas the historic houses, buildings, cultural sites in Oregon City help make it unique and foster local pride and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Oregonians of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds, and where it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of heritage that have shaped us as a community. And whereas Oregon City has many notable locally designated buildings, 2 historic districts, and 25 National Register historic sites.
Now therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as National Historic Preservation Month and call upon all residents of Oregon City to join others across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. And I will sign this on May the 3rd. And as I said, I wore my special shirt, which I will stand, because it's cold up here. So it's saving places, because that's what I do. I save places. You save places. We save places. We've all done it. It's important. All right, thank you. Mr. Mitchell, would you help with reading 3D?
Whereas our city is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world,
Roll up, yes.
all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property.
Now therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage the people of Oregon City to join with their fellow citizens across the globe in recognizing and participating in this special observance. And I will set my hand this third day of May 2023. So our building officials here, thank you. I like that little statement in here about our unknown protectors of public safety. I think we should have name tags for you on it. Unknown protectors of public safety. All right, so we have our final proclamation tonight, and it is mental health awareness. And Commissioner O'Donnell, would you help with reading this one?
Certainly. Proclamation is Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is part of everyone's overall health and well-being, and mental illnesses are prevalent in our county, state, and nation, with 1 in 5 adults experiencing a mental health issue every year. And whereas stigma and the resulting discrimination is a primary obstacle to early identification and effective treatment of individuals with mental illness and their ability to recover to lead full, productive lives. And whereas approximately half of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14, and suicide is the second leading cause of death of individuals ages 10 to 14 and 25 to 34. And whereas long delays averaging 11 years occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, and it is therefore essential to cure the stigma and discrimination that is a primary cause for those delays. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping cure the stigma and discrimination that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic engagement improves the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness.
Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month in order to increase public understanding of the importance of mental health, to promote identification and timely treatment of mental illnesses, and to cure the resulting stigma and discrimination. I will set my hand today, May 3rd, 2023. So we had a lot of really important things that are happening in this month, and I know we have a couple more coming up for the next meeting we have, because I remember we have something to do with Public Works that I recall that I was actually working on and got told it was put to a later thing. Is there anybody here who is here for citizen comments for items that are not on the agenda? So if there aren't, I'll go ahead and move to 5A. So we have a brief presentation by someone from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Come on up. Just give us your name and city of residence, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. You can sit wherever you want, as long as you got the clicker.
Okay, thank you so much.
You got to get the mic up right near you. Is it going to pull out of the,
I don't think so. I think
going to move any further?
I can move closer.
Okay,
There we go.
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor McGriff and Commissioners, for your proclamation today and for your time this evening. My name is Allie Linfoot. I sit on the board for NAMI, Clackamas County. I previously worked for Clackamas County in the Behavioral Health Department. I designed and implemented Clackamas County's peer-delivered services system of care. I was there for 12 years, and I just left in the fall, and only took a month before NAMI was knocking on my door saying, hey, will you sit on our board? And I was very happy to do that. So my story does not start there. My story starts 25 years ago, raising a son who's now in his 30s, struggling with mental health, and also understanding my own mental health struggles. I was at a school board meeting, and I was testifying because they were talking about cutting special education yet again, and my son that was the only way he was achieving in school, was through special education. And as I walked out of that room, a woman handed me her card and said, you know, you should really give me a call. And we have a class starting that I think you'd be really interested in. I had never heard of NAMI. I had no idea there was an organization to support parents. And so I called her and I took that class, and it changed the total trajectory of my life. At the time, I worked in the financial sector, and I've now been working in the mental health world for 25 years. I say all of this, I want to share, I hope I hit the right button here.
The button on the side.
There we go, okay. Because every year, 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health disorder. 1 in 15 experience both substance use and a mental health disorder. More than 12 million had serious thoughts of suicide, and 1 suicide death occurs every 11.5 minutes. That's in our country. In Clackamas County, suicide rate is 13.8 deaths per 100,000. population every year. Oregon ranks 38 in the country at 18.3 deaths. Clackamas County suicide rate is 18.8 deaths per 100,000 population, and the 12th leading cause of death overall, and it is the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, which is a shocking statistic. So Clackamas NAMI is a grassroots nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality for everyone. We provide education, support, advocacy. We help people learn to advocate for themselves and build those skills through our different education programs. And we have been doing this since 1978 in this county. All classes at NAMI Clackamas are absolutely free to anybody who wants to take them. The 8-week peer-to-peer class is for adults who are experiencing mental health struggles themselves. And the 8-week family-to-family class, that's the one that changed my life. And I actually became a teacher and was in that for a time. And then there is a 6-week NAMI basics class for parents caring for youth who are struggling. We provide lots of free presentations throughout the county. We have gone into schools in Clackamas County and here in Oregon City where we have presented on ending the silence and in our own voice, those two presentations, helping to educate students on sort of what they may see in their fellow classmates and knowing then what to do if you see mental health signs of suicide, and what do you do when you finally understand that, and where do you go? We also do free support groups for everybody. I have facilitated NAMI's bipolar support group for a long time while I was with Clackamas County. That's a great group of people, always fun to sit there and chat with them. And we have suicide bereavement group for those that have lost a loved one to suicide. Could have clicked, could have seen that. We also offer free one-on-one peer help, and what that encompasses is anybody coming in with mental health struggles who need resources, we can absolutely refer them and provide them with those resources and how to access them. Like I said before, NAMI changed my life.
Okay, you're all right.
And it's important for families to have this resource available to them. Sorry, I feel silly now.
Oh, it's okay.
I've been telling my story for 25 years and I haven't teared up in a while. So anyway, thank you so much for your time and for the proclamation. May is an incredibly important month, and don't forget to show up for yourself. Take care of yourself. Self-care is a huge part of mental health maintenance and recovery for everybody. So thank you so much.
I'd like to take the proclamation with you.
I would love that. That would be
Okay,
wonderful.
so let me sign it real quick and then I can give it to you. I have to have multiple copies of the first one because I need to give one to Commander Williams there.
I wasn't sure how I was going to outdo 4th of May or May the 4th.
Oh, the May 4th?
I just thought, I guess the tears maybe. I don't know. Thank you so very much.
But we have a Star Trek Day coming up in September, so equal time, equal time. Okay, next I'd like to call Brandy Johnson, and I will say that this update is, I think, one of my favorite updates that we get, because I think that there is not enough information out there, and so while this is on video and people can watch it later, it gets the information out. We have to do better about tooting our own horns. And a lot of times when we're doing good work out in the community, we think, well, everybody knows about it. We don't have to tell anybody our story. So this is an opportunity that I look at for you to come and talk to us and the community at large and talk about the work the good work that is happening.
Thank you. Brandy Johnson, Executive Director of LoveOne and resident of Oregon City. And I brought a special guest this evening.
A special guest?
For your entertainment, because we can't follow May the 4th or mental health awareness. Like, we got nothing, so I brought a friend.
And I'm Brad Sabo. I'm one of the co-owner of Brax Laundry here in Oregon City.
And say your name again?
Brad Sabo.
Okay. All right, we'll look forward to your performance or whatever it's going to be.
Well, he's going to sing and dance if it gets, too much. So we submitted a fairly lengthy report. I am not going to go over it all. I will summarize it, and then if anyone has any questions. We recently discontinued holding showers at Milner Vet. Our numbers there on Sundays were going down, which... Well, I'll address that in a minute. Our numbers were going down for Sunday showers. They've been increasing when we hold our events at Brax Laundry. So the combination of showers and also being able to wash your clothes is kind of a good pairing. And so the other piece of the shower attendance at Milner on Sundays is that the majority of the folks who are consistently coming for showers, we were able to pair with services and housing. Now, that's not to say that we don't recognize and are working to address the increasing prevalence of some of the behaviors and the individuals in Upper Oregon City. We're very aware of that. And we've actually resumed our Newell Creek Canyon kind of task force group. It's the DA's office, ODOT, Metro, City, and the Sheriff's Office, all the jurisdictions, because that's such an interesting spot at Beaver Creek and 213. And so we will be meeting, I think the meeting is next week. We have a list of the individuals who are camped out there, and we're making a plan. So those two things pair together, because when I say attendance has gone down at showers, I don't mean necessarily that we've housed a certain subset of the population. That doesn't mean that it's the whole thing. And I just recognize that, and there is a plan in place. We did include social media posts, recaps about our events. We do continue to write those and post those after all of our laundry and shower events, as well as our food program. I wanted to touch on that just briefly. Last year, we did 80 tons of laundry. We served folks 4,000 times overall, so we can't say 4,000 people because there's repeat individuals. Provided 250 showers, 12,000 times families shopped in our food pantry, and a lot of that was only made possible by more than 6,500 volunteer hours. So even though we do have some staff, a lot of the work that we do in the community is still volunteer driven and supported. And in October, we were able to expand wraparound supports to include outreach and housing, an actual formal funded program. The numbers here have been slightly updated. This was the recap through the end of December. To date, we have housed or folks waiting on housing. That number is 62. And we've made 158 unique touch points. So that's 158 unique individuals that we have met with, connected with services, otherwise have engaged with. We started a trash program. So if any of you have seen that, we've done cleanups behind Les Schwab twice. We have another one scheduled for the end of this month. The most recent one, we removed 80 yards of trash, and that's not counting what Metro came and removed, identified as hazardous waste, and their own trailer. We are able to pay people with lived experience to help participate in that. And what that briefly looks like is we go out into those camps, we do outreach with the folks, or we work with our law enforcement partners and other community members, business owners to identify the sites. We go out and we engage with the folks who are there. We work to build those relationships, connect them to services. We let them know when we'll be back and that we're going to clean up, and we encourage them to go ahead and start working on that. We go back out, we provide meals, we bring a team. We often partner with Solve as well as Metro. We go back out and remove as much as we can in a 3-hour time period. Clackamas County provides the dumpsters, and then we go back as needed. So Les Schwab is still in process. That's at least one more trip out there.
Something that you're having to do over and over and over again.
It's not new trash, it's the sheer amount and also navigating the terrain.
Yeah, I know it's steep.
It's steep, it's also, you've got the Walmart property, you've got the Les Schwab parking lot, all the different jurisdictions
You prefer
as
to
well.
call it the younger property?
Yes. So, it's not so much the, not new trash. It's just pulling it together or dismantling abandoned structures. That's also part of the process. And then needing to go in and remove hazardous waste first. Our food pantry has expanded. We were serving 150 to 200 individuals or families every Thursday at the Redland Grange. About 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of food would be gone in 10 minutes or less. We have a contract that we recently signed with Oregon Food Bank. That's increased the amount of food to 6,500 pounds. And that's now lasting about 15 minutes. And that's serving more than 300 people every week. Primarily that population is housed, elderly, kiddos, and veterans, and also families who are doubled up. We've been able to expand our offerings of fresh produce, meat. We've added pet products, food, things like that. So we'll be continuing to look for ways to expand as we keep seeing the need arise. I think I've covered pretty much everything we've been up to.
Would you like to say anything about why you support this?
Well, I guess really quickly.
Sure.
My husband and I, that was one of our cornerstones of our business once we opened here in Oregon City, was to be able to support the community, and working with Brandy and LoveOne and Glenn also. It's a hard job. There's a lot that needs to be done out there, and if laundry is one thing that I can do to help that's what we're going to do. The community needs to know more about what's happening with this group. They do amazing work, and we stand behind them 100%.
Mayor?
Yes. Yes, Chief Hand.
If I could say something, I kind of feel like something should be said a little bit about what Brandy and LoveOne does. I remember sitting at commission meetings when she came in. I had no idea who she was, and she had a little shower trailer, and thinking, I don't know if this is a good thing. Over time, as we've developed a relationship, and if you think about one of your goals, the first part of the homeless goal about establishing relationships and getting people together who can come at the homeless issues we have, multifaceted approach. That is Brandy LoveOne, who's much more closely affiliated now with in partnership with Father's Heart as well. When we get calls or when we're dealing with different people, usually the best thing for us to do is figure out how to get Brandy and Glenn to go talk to them. They usually have a relationship with these folks. They're seen by these people as help as opposed to how we're seen. And we get a lot of this stuff done because Brandy and her crew have established so much trust. I won't identify people, but there's some of the people that we've had in this community been homeless for a long, long time, recently housed. I won't say anything other than there's somebody who a lot of people have seen near a grocery store for a long, long time. Couple of years. I think this person's been in a car, and then that person's housed now.
Did you say cart or car?
They were in a car, and then they've been in different places. Okay. Most recently, that was a person I get asked about a lot. It's work of like Brandy and her people that are helping get in these hard cases over years of relationships. So it just sort of needs to be said, because when we talk about partnerships and your goals, these are the partnerships we're having. This is one of the most important people we have on that in our work there. So that needed to be said, and I just wanted to say it. So thank you, Brandy.
I appreciate your saying that, because I was going to say something similar about how it ties together with the goal. That's why I think hopefully it's not a pain for you, but I think it's important that we have a report once a year, because again, the community out there needs to hear this. We get a lot of complaints about things, but we never get to tell the story about the things that are happening, that little by little we're, taking bites out of the apple to get this solved. And I will say thank you so much for bringing the laundromat back. I'm not a regular customer, but I do go. And when it was closed, it was like, oh my God, when is this going to reopen? And I kept hearing people saying, when is the laundromat going to reopen? I do, however, have to say I understand about the dry cleaning part, but that was also my laundromat and my dry cleaner personally. So it was very convenient, and I understand what the environmental effects are of dry cleaning because I've cleaned up a site that was a former dry cleaner, so I do know what's involved in that. But thank you for coming back into the community. Thank you for opening up the laundromat because I think it's a needed resource. And now I don't have to go run over to Gladstone because you're open and I can do my giant quilts and whatnot there. So thank you very much for coming into the community.
Quick question. Where did you say the food pantry is?
It's out at the Redland Grange.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. Is that because that's where your clients are, or because you can't find a place in Oregon City?
It's because of the need in that specific area. So some of our board members and staff live out in that area and work with the schools. And primarily it's folks in the more rural areas that were having a real struggle accessing food. I mean, they're in a food desert. And the Grange was more than willing to partner with us to provide a space. And we needed a consistent space for that sheer amount of food.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more driven by, that's where your clients are?
I mean, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you so very much. We really appreciate your taking the time to come in because, again, I said we need to tell our community that there are good things that are happening and people are making changes. It's incremental, but it's important. So we will see you next year.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.
Just, is there agreement amongst the commission to invite her back in 1 year?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Cook and Community College Board Member, Mr. Groner, please come on up. It's nice to see you both here.
Thank you. Mayor and members of the commission, my name is Chris Groner, and I am a resident of Oregon City, and I represent the Oregon City Zone 4 on the Clackamas Community College Board of Directors.
And Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Tim Cook. I'm the president of Clackamas Community College. I'm a native of Oregon City, currently residing in West Lynn, but I've been a president of the college for 5 years now. So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
And thank you again for having us. We are here tonight to talk about our past bond measure. We're just wrapping up all the projects that were completed for the 2014 bond measure that was approved. And we'd like to share with you some of the highlights. Oh, if you, thank you.
On the right.
Thanks. All right. So as I mentioned, we passed the bond measure in 2014. It was a $90 million bond for us to expand and update our buildings, facilities, and grounds. We constructed 4 new buildings, expanded and remodeled others, and improved transportation to, from, and around the college, and much more. We were also able to leverage that $90 million by getting state matching funds for 4 of the projects and getting grants for seismic work, the transit center, and even furniture. And all we were able to leverage the bond dollars to more than $136 million. So I think that was one of our biggest successes coming out of that bond measure. We're quite proud we were able to do that. The first one was Harmony West on our Harmony Community Campus in Milwaukee. This building replaces the former Ickes Junior High, for those of you that have been around a while and remember that. And it was shared with us by the OIT at the time. This project was allowed to grow our health science, criminal justice, workforce development, and general education offerings in Milwaukee. And students now can start and complete a number of the programs right there on campus, specifically our health science. I think they can do the entirety of their programs there. Harmony West is 3 floors and includes classrooms, labs, and a large community space, large community event space that's used quite often. The project was completed in the fall of 2017, and this was one of the projects we received an $8 million match from the state. A fun fact, the reclaimed wood and salvage during demolition went to Japan to create countertops and tables. And here's just a few looks in the lobby area of Harmony West. And this is a look at one of the labs. They sure look better than when I went to college at Clackamas, that's for sure.
Were you ever at this building?
No, I don't think we had any footprint in that building. I'm quite old, Madam Mayor.
Oh, you're quite old? Okay. All right, if you say so.
Right. Next is the Holden Industrial Technology Center. This project was completed in 2018, and it was also one that received an $8 million match. The building increases teaching, training, and partner space, as well as creating flexibility to meet the training needs and partnership programs. It actually doubled our capacity in a number of our programs, and has been just, I will say, probably the jewel of our Oregon City campus right now, with the huge need and demand for these type of training programs, and the partnership and the communities that we've developed. Metallica scholarships is just one to name a few that really this has been a gem for us. So. It included redesign of the adjacent parking lot. It also took out our tennis courts, which is something that I want to work with the mayor on to get a few of those put back in the city, but that's another issue. And improve pedestrian access, and specifically to the high school, we improved the walkway there. The building's named after longtime college and career technical education supporters, Terry and Cheryl Holden. The Holdens have a long history and connection with the college and the surrounding community. Cheryl grew up in Estacada and Terry in Molalla, and we're honored to have them and call them as friends and supporters. And the Holden Technology Center Makerspace. This is, again, something that I think is absolutely unique and ideal for us. It named after Les Diasis. I always try to say Diasis.
Yes.
Of course, bench-made knives. Sure that most of the folks in our community are familiar with, and we're quite lucky to have him as part of our community and giving us this space. The workshop is where students and community members have access to tools they need to create prototypes, models, and masterpieces. After training, they can use the equipment ranging from basic woodworking machinery to 3D printing all the way up to CNC milling machines and laser cutters. The labs includes woodworking and construction, traditional metalworking and sheet metal, as well as welding, cutting station, and digital manufacturing. It's the first of a kind in Clackamas County, and if you're interested in checking it out, it's open to the public on Fridays from 5 to 9 p.m. We'd welcome you to come on by, and if any of you would like a tour, we'd be happy to give you one.
Mr. Wiley, could you go back to that slide? Because the little slide is in top of that little, on top of the, if you could move that so we can see that. There you go. I thought that's what it said underneath when I looked at the PowerPoint, but that's fantastic.
The Les Diasis family, when Les died, fundraised and actually donated quite a bit of money to name us that space after him. You know, of course, the story about bench-made knives, he started in his garage. The whole point of the maker space is that we might have somebody here in Oregon City that wants to start something and maybe doesn't have the equipment. They can come to this maker space and use
you mean
that.
like Intel or Apple?
Something like that. Mm-hmm. Yep, same idea. So.
I had the privilege of working with Les when the city of Oregon City bought the Bread Soils property from the county, and we were able to recruit that company. So John Block, our community development director, was instrumental in getting them here, and Les was just very delightful to work with. So he's missed.
He is missed. He actually helped us design that whole industrial technology center, so it mimicked a manufacturing center, so it looked a lot like what was happening at Benchmade too. So yeah, his legacy lives on there.
And next we have the Jardin Hall. This was our third large project, and a 35-year-old science complex, this is the one that I remember when I went to school there, was outdated significantly and overcrowded. This project doubled our chemistry lab capacity, accommodating an additional 250 chemistry students per year and reducing class sizes. They're similar to what they'll find in the four-year universities now. Prior to that, it was a pretty stark difference. As part of this project and using the funds from Connect Oregon and ODOT grants, we were able to build the new transit center at the camp on our campus. TriMet at the time, I believe, was looking for a southern terminus, and we came in at just the right time and was able to secure some grants and worked with ODOT to do that. So we've got some pictures of Desjardins there. Again, nothing like I remember. The building also features passive learning opportunities. The brickwork in this photo is, in the right, is designed to represent the DNA of a cougar, which of course is Clackamas Community College mascot. I thought that was the neatest thing. I don't remember who came up with that. But, they've also, on the left, you'll see our lobby's got a bird and duck display in the case there, which is amazing if you enjoy those type of things. And that's a baby beluga whale hanging up on the top, as well as additional displays and educational displays throughout the building. Now I'll hand it.
So because of the Industrial Technology Center, we were able to expand our automotive center. So in 2020, we opened our garage bay doors to a remodeled and expanded automotive department. We used to have to have both our collision program and our technician program in one space. And it was so cramped in there that the painting booths were across the parking lot. And you can imagine in Oregon the problem of getting a car ready to paint and then having to move it out into a wet space and try to get it painted. So now with this expanded space, we don't have to do any more of that. So we're able to double the space, split the technology on one side and the auto body collision repair on the other side. This provides students and instructors the space they need for a productive and learning environment. These students are learning hands-on in a space that mimics real shops. And in fact, we have now, as you're seeing on this side, you're seeing bay doors all along the left and the side there. Most of those are named now after local automotive dealers that have come in and sponsored. They're sponsoring students, they're paying for equipment, they're paying for scholarships for those students as we go along because we're mimicking the work that they do there. Expansion also enhanced the space for the college's high school program. So students from Oregon City High School come across the parking lot there, take classes with CCC instructors. As you know, in recent years, there's been a decline in secondary schools being able to offer, automotive shop programs. And so we've been able to step up and partner with Oregon City and other school districts to give them this opportunity. We're also really proud of our Wachino Welcome Center. And this was our last major project from the bond, and it changed the way we serve students and greet visitors. This building now serves as our front door of the college. Prior to this, we found that students were going to as many as 5 different buildings to try to get started, and often were getting lost or frustrated or couldn't figure out where to go and navigate. So it houses our student services, our advising center, our counseling, financial aid, and we intentionally created a space where students can have most of their questions answered in one setting rather than going between different offices or buildings. It connects to our Bill Broad Community Center, which was built in the 80s. And that Bill Broad Center was also given a facelift. That side houses our student government, our disability resource center, multicultural center, and our vet center. Space now offers better study spots and easy access to the Cougar Cafe. If you've ever visited the community center prior to this project, I would bet that you wouldn't even recognize it now if you were to go inside. It's lighter, brighter, much more welcoming. When planning the Wachino Welcome Center, we knew we wanted to honor the indigenous tribes whose homelands the college campus resides. After much research and discussion across the college, several of us met with the Grand Ronde Tribal Council with a proposal to name the building. And we asked them, what would be the most respectful way to name for that building. And we kind of expected that they would give us something like a Chinook word for welcome, or Chinook word for welcome, or something along those lines. And they came back and said the best thing you could do is name it after Chief Wachino, who actually signed the treaty that moved them to the Grand Ronde tribe. And we were surprised because, we thought that might not be a very positive thing to do. But for them, Chief Wachino is revered. And so we did, and Cheryl Kennedy, the chair of that, actually cried a bit when we did that, and they came and they blessed our building, and really it's been a great partnership. And actually Cheryl Kennedy is coming and giving a talk about the history of the Grand Raw on campus on Tuesday, because we have a long history now in partnership where we're trying to have more indigenous instruction on campus as well. So we're really quite proud of that. Inside, you'll see on the left picture here, kind of the secret sauce of this place, a very large welcome desk. And the difference is, before you used to go, if you needed counseling, you'd get sent over to counseling. If you needed registration, you get sent over to registration, and you get kind of bounced around. Now, everyone comes in the front door there, and that's where you go, and counseling comes to you, financial aid comes to you, advising comes to you. And so we have little private conference rooms, we have computer labs, we have the rest for students to really help out there. And we talked about reclaimed wood before. You can't quite see it well enough, but you can see the lighter wood there along the walls. That is actually bleacher wood from our, when we replaced the bleachers in the gym, we saved those. There's no initials carved in them or anything like that. They sanded them all out, but they were able to reuse all that. And we also, quite a surprise, found out on the second floor we have a view of Mount Hood that we didn't anticipate, which was kind of nice. You don't get to see it most days, but on nice days you get to see Mount Hood from there. And you can see how light and bright it is and just how comfortable and welcoming that building is. And then in just this last year, we started renovation of the first floor of Roger Rook Hall, which is right next to Wachino. And this was vacated with the completion of the Welcome Center, and now this first floor houses the President's Office Suite, the foundation, and our college's first Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It also includes a new large community room available for the college and community events and Board of Education meetings. We recently celebrated the completion of this project with an open house on March 15th. A number of other projects that we were able to do, not as exciting as buildings, but still very important. Elevator upgrades, locker room Title IX upgrades, partially funding the extension of Myers Road and adding a third entrance to the college, stormwater improvements, roof replacements, new wayfinding and entrance signs across the Oregon City campus, IT upgrades, campus safety and security upgrades as well. Part of our bond projects, we establish workforce goals to involve students and use local businesses. We like acronyms at the college, and so we have this SAIL and BOAT acronyms. SAIL stands for Student Applied Integrated Learning, and this encouraged our architects and contractors to involve students in their work, including internships, mentorships, job shadows, site visits. Initiatives got students involved in the construction and professional contract work and hands-on experience. Our SAIL goal was to get 1,000 hours of student experience on these projects, and we ended up with nearly double that at close to 2,000 hours. And actually, we had 2 students that started out as interns and ended up getting hired as project managers from different companies as a result of this too. And our BOAT program stands for Business Opportunities Achievement Target. This encouraged employment opportunities across Clackamas County to residents of minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, as well as emerging small businesses. The purpose of this program was to encourage contractors and subcontractors to prioritize these small women and veteran-owned businesses. Our goal here was 10% of all construction costs, and we achieved almost 30%. And lastly, we're planning a party. We want to celebrate and we want to thank the community for everything they've done for us. So we're looking at August 5th all day and having lots of food and opportunities to see the buildings, entertainment, take short classes, and just have an opportunity to really come together as a community. Thank you again for your time. I did want to, it's not part of the presentation, but I wanted to, I always like to tell communities what they're getting as far as the dual credit programs. And these are students in Oregon City that are able to take classes, Oregon City High School able to take classes at the college. Last year, we had 380 Oregon City High School students earn a total of 4,726 credits in 1 year and saved them and their families $477,326 in tuition costs by the ability to do that too. And that's our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions, but thank you again for your support of the college.
I think that 380 is great. What about students that are not enrolled in Oregon City High School but go to other high schools in the district and they take classes? So have you been able to capture?
Districts in other cities?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, for instance, I know there are a group of students that are at LaSalle that are getting college credit.
Yeah, overall, I didn't bring those numbers with me. Overall, we saved last year more than $3 million in tuition across the county from our dual credit programs, from people being able to do that. Oregon City, because of proximity, has one of the larger programs in the area too, but yeah, we offer that for all the different districts. I don't have the total number of credits or number of students overall.
Just one of those interesting statistics that you can say Oregon City has this many, and then in our surrounding communities with others, you know, like Brax Putnam or whatever, we've got a total of this many that are doing it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. We have all that. I can certainly share it.
I just think it's great.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to thank the city for being such a great community partner, and the police department and chief band as well. And invite all of you and the community at large to come to visit our campus. For the parents that just heard President Cook's reporting of numbers, if your students haven't signed up for those AP classes, or in the AP classes more importantly, and haven't signed up for the dual credit, just a simple $15 fee or something, do it. Make sure that they've done that. Honestly, I didn't, and when I got to college, I had missed out on about 10 different, or 18 credits, I think, that just because I didn't fill it out. So please do.
Yeah, I think it's great. My son was able to jump ahead a whole semester because of the dual credits. Yeah. So he didn't graduate early, however, but he had them. He wanted to graduate with his class, so.
And we have great community center spaces for organizations like NAMI and One Love. We would love to host them as well. So thank you guys all very much.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for your partnership with us on the State of the Community. I think the community really appreciated having the school district and the city and the college. Shows, again, great partnerships. So I appreciate us being able to do that together. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so we are on to, finally down to number 7. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there anybody that wants to pull anything, or do we have a motion? I did read the minutes, so thank you. They are accurate as I was able to determine that. Is there a motion? Item number 7.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we'll jump down to, don't have any public hearings tonight, so let's jump down to 9B, first reading of ordinance 23-1002, establishing misuse of a public restroom as an offense against public peace and decency. So I'm assuming this applies to all of our bathrooms, not just the new loo that's coming in? Yes, he's nodding his head.
Yes, as I read it.
Yes, that's how I read it. Just wanted to make sure, and I was kind of wondering why we don't have this as an emergency, that we can pass it tonight.
Yeah, if
I
the
think we
commission
have-
would like to do that.
We have some issues with bathrooms like right now.
Can we declare an emergency and do it tonight?
Okay. Anybody have an objection to that? And who's giving the report? It's the wonderful Mr. Wheeler. Thank you. I understand you're pinch hitting for Mr. Lewis.
I am. So Josh Wheeler, Oregon City Public Works Department. Tonight before you is ordinance number 23-1001, establishing misuse of a public restroom as an offense against public peace and decency. The purpose of this ordinance was started because of the public restroom, which was approved back on January 18th. In speaking with the police department, we found that there was a need in our municipal code to be able to enforce any activity that is unwanted in a restroom like this, or ones that already exist in other areas of our city. And so we spoke to them, and they encouraged us to use the City of Portland's code as a base And we did that, and then we reviewed that code with the city attorney's office as well as the police department to make sure that it met all the standards that everyone needed. And that is the ordinance before you. I'm here for any questions.
No, I'd say it's pretty darn straightforward. Question, Mr. Mitchell?
Yeah, just one, is vandalism specifically covered elsewhere in our code?
Did you say vandalism?
Vandalism, yeah.
Yes. Criminal mischief, it's a state statute.
Okay,
Still wouldn't miss out on it, right? Make sure it gets covered.
right, I didn't see it spelled out here, but I understand, okay, so it's covered elsewhere. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? So in reading this, we just have to basically say first reading of da-da-da-da-da and decency and then in declaring an emergency?
We're rewriting a couple of components, so give us.
Train me well. I unfortunately, the disparaging news is that I was at Gardner last Friday, and the school probably isn't, 6 months, maybe less than a year old. Bathrooms over there have already been vandalized and defaced, which I was just so discouraged to hear that, because it's a beautiful space. I mean, as Chris would say, gee, my middle school wasn't as nice as that when I was going to middle school. And it's unfortunate.
I'm curious, do any staff members know what the penalty is associated with this? Is it a custody situation? Is it a citation and release? Does anybody know?
Or is it, do not collect $200, go directly to jail?
I mean, it falls under whatever the statute was.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I was not in on the writing of this. I do not know the penalty. I'm sure it's a citation. There's some things like if somebody damages something, that would be an arrest. But the specifics of this statute, I don't know.
So if somebody is cited under this or arrested under this, I think, is that what you're asking, Frank? Because that's...
Yeah, I wanted to know, is it a citation? Is it a custodial situation? And it falls under, it said what part of our code it falls under. Maybe there's a general application of everything in this category is this.
Probably falls under.
Most of the things that go to muni court like this are an unclassified misdemeanor. There's a statute that they cite under that it's
Unclassified
it's the equivalent of a misdemeanor that goes, so those are arrestable. I don't know specific if I believe this is. These are geared toward people doing things in the restroom that Portland has had problems with, and
Ready whenever you are. Anything else anybody want to add to this? I know people just see awkward silence, but I guess we can have silence.
So if you are inclined to adopt this ordinance by emergency, because I've amended it, we're going to have to read the whole ordinance, not the language of chapter 9.12, but the language of the ordinance itself. So if you want to make a motion for the first reading, then I will read it, and then we'll take a vote. And then we'll do the second, and I'll read it, and we'll take a vote.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so I think the first step would be a motion.
Okay, let's have a motion, please.
It's a proper motion that we declare an emergency and ask for a first reading and second reading of the ordinances.
Yes, you moved the first reading of ordinance 23-1002.
Number 23-1002.
So said.
And declaring an emergency.
And declaring an emergency.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay, so I'm going to read the ordinance in full.
Fine.
Ordinance number 23-1002, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City establishing misuse of a public restroom as an offense against public peace and decency and declaring an emergency. Whereas the City of Oregon City owns and may own and maintain public restrooms within city facilities, including buildings, right-of-ways, and easements. And whereas the City of Oregon City puts a priority on neighborhood livability and health, and misuse of a public restroom could have a negative effect on livability and health. And whereas establishing what conduct is improper within public restrooms allows the City of Oregon City to ensure that public restrooms are used only for their intended purposes and will contribute to the livability that is a priority for the city. Now therefore, Oregon City ordains as follows. Section 1, Adoption. The city hereby amends the existing Oregon City Municipal Code, Title 9, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare, Chapter 9:12, Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency, to include a new section entitled Section 9.12.035, Misuse of a Public Restroom. The newly adopted section is attached as Exhibit A to this ordinance. Section 2, Severability. If any provision of this ordinance or its application to any person or circumstance is held invalid, the invalidity does not affect other provisions or applications of this ordinance that can be given effect without the invalid provision or application, and to this end, the provisions of this ordinance are severable. Section 3, Emergency. The Commission finds emergency conditions require immediate implementation and enforcement. Read for the first time and a second time at a regular meeting of the City Commission held on the 3rd day of May, 2023, and fully enacted the same day of 3rd day of May, 2023.
I have a question.
Yes.
On E, F, and G,
Title 9.
yes. E, F, and G, is that consistent with state law? And is it based on preferred gender or not?
Okay, I didn't hear the beginning of your question.
E, F, and G. Because my knowledge of bathroom, my knowledge of state law is, different than that. So I want to know if that's consistent with state law in terms of gender, and if it's preferred gender.
I'm not the person. I know that Bill helped write this, and I know there was a conversation about how exactly to treat gender, and this was the recommendation where it landed. It's consistent with what Portland did. But in terms of whether or not it's consistent, I don't know. I would be surprised if our attorney wrote something down that was inconsistent with state law.
I know that in this building, we have gender-neutral bathrooms. In some of the older facilities, we do not, because there's not really a way to do that as of yet. So I know the Portland...
As far as I know, in schools, students can use whatever restroom is their preferred gender.
Yeah.
So I don't know that this is...
I think point I.
I think, did you see?
Look at item I also.
Take a look at I.
Aye.
The above requirements do not excuse a failure to provide reasonable and appropriate accommodations permitting all persons access to restrooms consistent with their expressed gender.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that
Thank
covers
you.
it. Yeah, okay. Roll call, please.
But I've got another potential correction that I think we need to take a look at. Section F.
Yes.
It is unlawful for any female person to enter a restroom marked men. This section does not apply to a female child under 12 years of age.
With her mother?
Should it be her father?
It'd be her father.
Yeah,
or male guardian.
yeah.
It's not his mother.
I agree with that.
That's consistent with the language in E for the opposite gender. So we'll make that change.
I do have an answer to your question there, Commissioner O'Donnell. It falls under the same Title IX of the Municipal Code, which is obscene conduct. There's a whole list of things that are all fall under that same, I can't give you the exact legal term for what it is, but it's an unclassified misdemeanor that is arrestable, that gets cited into municipal court under an ORS that is basically a catch-all for municipal code violations.
That works for me. Issue a citation if need be, you can take into custody. If you fail to provide identification, you get taken into custody. I've got no problem with that solution, and it goes to our municipal court, which is the right place for it. Yep, good.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
I'm going to abstain.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Question for the city attorney.
Yeah, we can't do an emergency.
This must be a unanimous vote.
We have to be.
Because it's an emergency.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, so I'll tell you my concern. My concern is anytime we put reasonable and appropriate, that's based on whoever's enforcing it. Especially when you go into E, F, and G, where it clearly says a person of this gender cannot do this. I think that I is not specific enough. So I don't think I can support it.
Okay, well,
Well, we
can't-
passed it, so we're good.
Well, you can't
well,
pass it.
We can pass the first reading, we'll have to come back to the second reading, because I wanted it passed tonight, and we have to have unanimous.
Has to be
Well,
unanimous
quite honestly,
in order to pass, to have it be
An
effective
emergency,
tonight.
right, and an emergency. I just felt it gives another tool in the tool belt for our folks in blue.
well, is not the reasonable man a concept under the law?
Reasonable person, yes.
A reasonable person?
Yes, but the language that the enforcement officer would use to issue a citation would be as it is set forth here. And the citation process, as I understand it, is that municipal court allows for hearing, and if there were a dispute over the qualification of the citation, it would be handled in the municipal court. Isn't that how it works?
Right, 9C.
So, just, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
just want to clarify. So an arrest could be made based on probable cause that an officer would have, and then somebody would go have their day in court, and then that would get sort of rooted out, and ultimately attorneys would argue, and a judge would make a final decision on the definitions of, based on the evidence that the officer gave in their testimony and report in court.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is if it's addressed in I, then why wouldn't in E, F, and G, it specify express gender or preferred gender? It very clearly states these things, so someone could read that one way.
Is not the piece taken in its entirety?
Well,
Each one-
I think what they're trying to do is, and obviously this is sort of, I'm not a lawyer. This is sort of new, a lot of these conversations like what we're having now. So people are trying to figure that out. So what I think that in the conversations they were trying to have is to allow based on things that would happen in Portland, they wanted to make sure that throw unique circumstances, I won't even say unique. Let's just say there's somebody going into a woman's restroom somewhere that is just, a drunk guy on, whatever, terrorizing somebody in the wrong. It's more geared toward getting that guy out of the restroom. I think the other conversations, and so I think the other assumptions that are made are, and that's why I is in there. It's not about, I'm trying to not say the wrong thing, but it's that's why that stuff's there in the first place, is getting people who are terrorizing people or scaring people in a restroom out. It's not about a transgender issue or something like that. It has nothing to do with that. So it's trying to deal with both circumstances.
Would you rather that I be in E, F, and G? 'Cause I do agree that we read the code in its totality. And that's how
Take a piece out.
and that's how it's applied. That's why there's not just a section A with everything in it. And I do agree with Jim that there are variations to the infractions that we see. And some are very clear, addressing an issue versus realizing that there are different circumstances that are going to have to be addressed upon part of the investigation. It becomes clarified, and I becomes applicable. That's why we have sections to implementing a code or a law. But if I were in each of those sections, would it address it so it's not a standalone? I'm not sure how to wordsmith.
I sort of take I as saying, look, this isn't about an interpretation of perceived gender. If somebody says this is my gender, that's fine. That is sort of like, this isn't I take I as this is not about that.
I take I as clarification to exactly what the chief is saying, rather than not having I addressed at all. And then there's a whole lot of interpretation that goes on. I think here we're providing clear guidance and a distinction between activities and really trying to focus in on the activities that are blatantly inappropriate while acknowledging that there are gender differences that are in this. This is actually providing that guidance that we do acknowledge.
I do know, based on the conversation that Bill had said too, is Portland is seen as a fairly progressive city in this area. And if it's good for Portland, he didn't say this, it's probably good for us, because I think they had worked through this at length, dealing with these sorts of issues. I know they have, because I remember
when the Portland Loo was put in, and this ordinance came right after that.
Yep.
Because they were Randy Leonard was commissioner at the time, and he was insisting that there be this sort of documentation with it. That's why I looked, I thought, gee, this looks awfully familiar.
Well, they put him in under best of intentions, and
Right.
then the real world comes in, and people are going in there and doing all sorts of
Doing
things.
whatever,
and
yes.
so then they having to respond to that and create ways of dealing with things where the state law, like Commissioner Mitchell brought up, where there wasn't a path in other ways.
I actually think it's well written. I think it's well written because it talks about biological identification, and then the final item I talks about self-identification and making accommodation for that. So, I mean, I don't know what else you can do.
There's a huge difference between express gender and your preferred gender. What you're expressing is not necessarily your gender.
Well, I understand that. That's self-identification, right? I mean, if you want to delve into that, we can't get this done tonight.
I'm not
Let's
voting
drop
yes,
it.
so you guys figure it out. If it needs a second reading, I'm not voting on
Well,
it.
apparently you can't pass it.
Right, no, we know that. That's why we're sitting here waiting.
We're done with it then, because you're done with it.
So second reading can come to us.
Yes. No, I completed the vote.
I don't know.
The vote is complete. 4 and 1 abstention.
Yes, we're done after
Does
the routine
the
channel.
abstention counts as a nay vote or a neutral vote?
It counts as a neutral vote, but it doesn't count as unanimity.
Okay, that's what I thought.
First, so we need to do a first reading and
We
vote.
did do a first
So,
reading.
but
No, that wasn't your emergency.
What I would like to do, if it's okay with the commission, is clarify that the ordinance that we had a first reading on that passed is not an emergency ordinance anymore.
Right.
It goes back to what was proposed,
Right.
which
With the
does
amendment,
not
with the,
declare an emergency, right?
Right.
And that
So
allows it.
what I'd like, if it's okay,
go back and do the motion.
I'd like to have a motion to approve ordinance number 231002 as proposed in the packet, and then I'll read it by title, and then we'll take a vote on that.
Hey, with the correction.
Because we're not going to have the unanimity to do the emergency that I read.
Right, let's do
With
that.
the correction.
That's
Yes.
my motion, as you stated.
With second, and that's with the correction.
Okay, so the motion has made to adopt ordinance number 231002 as proposed in the agenda packet, and I'm going to read it by title. Ordinance number 23-1002, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City establishing misuse of a public restroom as an offense against public peace and decency.
And just for the record, the motion was by Frank O'Donnell, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And I second.
Seconded by Mayor McGriff.
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
No.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So the next meeting will bring back the clean one with this change to the substance and have a second reading.
Right. Yeah.
Sub F.
Yeah, this is also an example of how we can use the framework, and that's what I was reading it against when I was reviewing this at home. So this is another one of those things where we need to keep bringing that up. Okay, so we have item 9C, second reading of ordinance number 231004, adopting the street tree minor code amendments. Gee, Josh, I thought you were going to get to stay.
I don't know if we need a staff report for this. This was
No, we
this was
really don't.
approved. The first reading was approved on April 19th. Unless there are questions, we have staff available. Otherwise, we'd recommend adopting the second reading of the ordinance.
Their motion.
Move to approve second reading of ordinance 23-1004, adopting 2022-23 street code minor code amendments.
Second.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Wait.
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Ordinance number 23-1004, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City amending Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 12.08, Public and Street Trees, and Chapter 12.32, Heritage Trees.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right. Any communications?
No, Mayor, thank you.
I can't imagine not one. Well, we had a thunderstorm, but Mr. Smith, did you have something?
For Historic Preservation Month, I will be doing a talk at the Ermitanger House Saturday. I think it's at 2:30. There'll be a talk before that.
Yeah, I had one. Bill Hawkins.
Bill Hawkins at 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
So the house will be open for those talks and then also for the public to see the house.
And I will be doing a talk on May the 20th at 1 p.m. on the preservation legacy of Ruth McBride Powers, whom our preservation award is named after. She also was the benefactress and the person that gave us the beautiful and delightful Ermitanger house. And I would also report that there are other organizations in the community that are doing events for Historic Preservation Month, and watch your local media, the Oregon City News, for any updates and information, and the city's website, so carefully curated by our communications manager, Mr. Jared Lehman. Any updates? Could we briefly talk about the pause to the tolling,
Yes.
which everybody's interested in. So persistence pays off. I will say that our 3 local Clackamas County representatives, Courtney Neuron, Anessa Hartman, and Jules Walters, were basically our champions. We also had Mark Meek, who was also participating. We had some support from Senator Rob Wagner, not as much as we would like, but thank you, Rob, for whatever you did. Anyway, it looks as if the governor is going to allow for a pause in the I-205 tolling program. That does not mean we are going to let up our conversation with the Oregon Department of Transportation. And I love the comment, which is, we look forward to engaging with our stakeholders on this particular issue. Took a really deep breath and didn't say anything under my breath when I was at home and heard that. We will continue to have our issues brought before them. We will continue to request answers. We will continue to press for an open and transparent process. We are not giving up. So I assure you that we are on this and we are going to stay on it. All right, being no further business, may I adjourn the meeting?
There was the appointment.
What?
The appointment?
Oh, yes, sorry, yes. Yes, we have an appointment, so I participated with the library board in the, it is the very last thing in my binder, in the interviews for the vacancy on the library board, and this was a position that was open for a Oregon City resident, and I'd like to appoint Lisa Arostovich to the library board. And it's for a term ending 12/31/2024. This is all filling an unexpired vacancy. So we go, make it so. That's it. All right. Is there any further business? I'll move we adjourn.
To executive session, please.
Yes, to executive session, yes. I'm home by 10 o'clock.